Hi everyone, it is I, Curtis McQuarrie, your instructor for the CGS Hybrid Public Speaking section. I'm sorry that we're having to do the class totally online. Obviously, uh, taking a public speaking class online is not an ideal way to learn public speaking, but we're going to just do the best that we can given the circumstances. So I assume that everyone has read the syllabus and understands our schedule. And I also assume everyone's been to the Canvas page that is set up. It's not completely set up, but I have enough on there now so that y'all can get working on your first speech and your practice speeches of your introduction speech. I'd like you to take a look at the way that I have the Canvas page laid out. Obviously, we have home, the announcement section, the syllabus section, the assignment section. I'd also like you to pay particular attention to the file section. So, for each speech that you guys do, I will have a folder with handouts related to that particular speech. So right now, if you were to go to the files section on our Canvas page, you'd see that there is a folder entitled Speech 1 Related Handouts. And there's also a folder with um, entitled Assignment Sheets. So as we move through this semester, I will put all of your assignment sheets in that folder, okay? So the files section basically is where all of the course materials will be. For this first speech that you guys will be doing, this introduction speech that you're going to do 3 practice versions of, okay? I'm not really giving you a lot of guidance on this introduction speech because I'm using it kind of as a diagnostic assessment to see where each of you stand individually right now in terms of your public speaking ability. So once I get a chance to see a few of your practice speeches, then I will be able to kind of assess your strengths and weaknesses and then give you constructive feedback accordingly. However, for this introduction speech, if you go into the Speech 1 related handouts folder, there's a couple of 3 or 4 different handouts in there. But in particular, there is a Word document where I've cut and pasted some links to some short YouTube videos that offer practice tips for public speaking in terms of coming up with your introductions and conclusions, body language, posture, what to do with your hands, hand gestures, things like that. And they're all, relatively short videos, usually like 4 to 6 minutes long on average, probably. But they offer some really good practical tips on these areas that I just mentioned. So, as you begin putting together your introduction speech and practicing it, a few things to keep in mind is to do your best to stay within the 3 to 5 minutes time frame. You'll find as we go through the course that I'm a stickler for staying within the given time frame. The reason being that as you go on into your future professional careers, you don't want to be in a situation where you go in to give a presentation and you go exceedingly long and ruin the flow of the meeting. And generally speaking, if a speech is exceedingly short, the person probably didn't do enough prep beforehand. And if a speech is exceedingly long, then it shows that while the person probably did prepare, is that they didn't practice the speech enough and edit out things. One of the things that you'll learn in this course is when you're giving a specific time frame to work with, part of putting the speech together is figuring out which materials to leave in and which that you materials you might have to take out for time purposes. But we'll get into that specifically when we go into your second speech, which will be your first graded speech. So you're going to be submitting 4 practice speeches before you do your first graded speech. But so your first 3 practice speeches will basically be practicing your introduction speech, and then your 4th practice speech will be a practice for your uh, career speech, which is technically your first graded speech. Anyway, so please feel free to email me with any questions. I've decided to run this course in an asynchronous fashion because I realize that everybody has their own schedules, and you know, under normal circumstances, most people take the hybrid course because they have very hectic schedules. It's pretty common for a lot of the nursing majors to take the hybrid class. But when you add on top the situation we're in with the coronavirus situation, is that I don't think it's a good idea to say, okay, we're going to have a class on Zoom or whatever on these particular dates. So what I'll do is, as I introduce the various assignments throughout the semester, I'll record videos, and especially once we get into the graded speeches, I will have recordings where basically I introduce the assignment and basically give a lecture talking about that assignment. So again, I'm not giving you a lot of information to go on for this introduction speech, but in the file section, again, in the speech 1 related handouts section, there is a handout that kind of gives you some tips. I don't think I put this on the handout, but one of the things that I always tell my students when you're trying to figure out how long to make your speech, obviously for this speech, this first introduction speech, I'm giving you 3 to 5 minutes. And a good rule to go for when constructing your speech is what's called the 20-60-20 rule, where if you say, okay, Curtis said we have to go 3 to 5 minutes, so I'm going to shoot for, say, 4 minutes. All right, so my goal is to go at least 4 minutes. 20% of your speech time will be your introduction, 60% of your speech time will be the main body of your speech, and then the final 20% of your speech will be the conclusion. Now, those are just kind of it's not set in stone. These are just kind of a suggestion. But if you're trying to figure out, okay, I'm going to try and talk for 4 or 5 minutes, how do I want to space things out? The 20-60-20 method seems to be pretty feasible, and for some people that think that speaking for 4 to 5 minutes is a daunting task, when you break it down into 20-60-20 and you look at the mathematics of it, that it's not that hard. And then when you look at the 60% for your main body, let's say you have 2 or 3 main points that you want to talk about in the main body of your speech. When you break that 60% down even further and say into 3 parts, what you have then is, it turns out, is you have, let's say, a 4-minute speech that's broken down into manageable chunks, and those chunks will be held together hopefully by transitional phrases as you move from point to point. So anyway, again, I'm not giving you a lot of guidance on this introduction speech, but that's okay. Believe me, when we start heading into your actual first graded speech, I will have a lot of information and specific things that I will want to communicate to you. But anyway, okay, so I just wanted to introduce myself, and again, please feel free to contact me whenever you have any questions about anything. And that's really all I have for now. All right. Thank you very much. Have a good day.